Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another strap review for you from Hirsch straps. I've reviewed their rubber straps in the past, and maybe even some other ones that weren't rubber. They make great straps, let's face it. But one thing I did want to kind of talk about in this particular video is really how you can change the whole look and feel of a watch a lot of times with the right strap pairing. And I did want to share this particular strap because I think it really flies under the radar and it ends up going kind of unnoticed and in the range of straps that are out there, being overlooked a lot of times for options that are much cheaper, and then of course options that are even more expensive. I think this is kind of a nice middle ground as far as the strap goes. You can find them depending on where you're getting them from. I got this one from Long Island Watches. I'll leave a link in the video description below, and I want to say they're like 70 or 80 bucks, but you can find them more expensive, you can find them cheaper depending on kind of where you're gonna order them from. But I think that this natural rubber strap, although it's quite plain, it really brings out a more modern feel to whatever watch it ends up being added onto. And I think because it's so plain, it actually means that it's going to suit a lot of watches really well. And I think that, it's actually a really great option as opposed to a leather strap, which a lot of people would probably kind of prompt to do. You've seen me with this watch many times on the channel if you're a fan of it. And although it's probably pretty hard to find at this point, it's like a $200 Seiko hacking, hand winding, and all that, and with sapphire too. So it's pretty much impossible to find now. So don't even think about trying to find that. What I really want to showcase is how it's really transformative when you put it on this black rubber strap. Typically, this watch on a NATO strap just takes on this really fun vintage military vibe, but when you put it on this black rubber, it just feels so much more modern and just kind of more of an everyday piece, which I thought was a lot of fun. So with all that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look. Okay, as you can see, this natural rubber strap is really nicely done. Nice finished edges there, great as far as the side profile. As you can see, it does have a nice taper. If I can get it to focus. All right, so really nice there, nice and thin, super pliable. And then it actually does have some contouring underneath, which keeps the material off of your skin, which really helps with obviously ventilation. And then also one thing you notice that a lot of places aren't even picturing this, is they've actually added quick release spring bars, which is a really nice touch and definitely adds another kind of modern amenity that sometimes you don't expect. And some of the bigger old school brands, because they feel like oftentimes they don't have to kind of deal with some of the gimmicks and whatnot that are out there, but here it's really a nice option. Also, one thing I will note, that when these are packed, they're actually stacked together touching, so the little knob on one will actually leave a dimple on the other on the front side, but it actually, as you can see, you can't even see it now. But I will say that, so in case you guys do purchase them and like, oh man, mine came with this weird dent in it, it's just basically the imprint of one of the knobs pushing on the other side, which basically, of course, the rubber itself is quite pliable and it kind of heals itself after wearing. And then also one thing you'll notice is we do have the one stationary keeper here. Then we have a sliding keeper. This does taper from 20 millimeters down to 18 at the buckle. And then the buckle is fully milled, guys. Even this little finger right here. So although it's, fully polished and whatnot, so you can't really take too much advantage of, and it's relatively lightweight, obviously. You can't really focus too much on really fine finishing on it, but it's nicely done, and it's a nice adds to kind of the finished feel and the really nice kind of modern vibe, and it feeling like it's a complete package and it's not just kind of the sum of many kind of thrown together parts. So yeah, I mean, although this is a very, of course, clean and classic aviation field watch inspired design, which can easily kind of fit that retro vintage vibe, one thing though, when you put it on one of these straps, it just feels so much more modern. And I mean, this watch for me, I would just always wear it on a NATO, which, yeah, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good NATO strap and everything like that, but it didn't suit all occasions. It's definitely a lot more casual. Here you get something that is, quite sporty, but also at the same time, yeah, it can be quite clean and doesn't necessarily have to be ultra casual, because it just feels kind of like a modern watch, right? It just happens to be a Seiko, and it just happens to have this cool aviation themed aesthetic with the big numerals and everything, at the 12, 3, 6, and 9. But at the same time, it's just overall quite handsome and versatile, and I think it really speaks volumes to obviously the look and the design that Seiko was going for, even with this really interesting kettle shaped design for the case there. As you can see, it actually has a profile that comes out towards the bottom, similar to, let's say, you'd see this type of case shape very similar on like an Oris Aquis. They're really famous for having that kind of kettle shape. So it just has these fun lines and interesting, kind of features on it that make it more than just kind of a classic aviation watch, but most people just buy it for the dial, not necessarily for some of these little, interesting things like the high polished inner bevel on those lugs, or the nice, kind of kettle shape that's interesting there. They could have easily done kind of a side slab or done some of their more basic Seiko kind of undercutting to make it a little bit more comfortable, but they just played with it a little bit differently. And I think they did a great job. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this piece on the wrist. All right, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this thing is just super comfortable. I mean, of course, it's nice. The watch shape with those lugs that wrap around definitely do help, but it's really the strap that makes it ultra comfortable. And the nice thing is, I've reviewed quite a few different types of straps, even like fun elastic straps, which are great for every day. One of the nice things is with rubber is that although it does offer you some pliability, it doesn't stretch, right? Or at least not to the point of an elastic band, which they're so comfortable, but they stretch. So if you're going to go to the park and throw a football with your son and you have an elastic strap holding on a mechanical timepiece, you're going to get a lot of give in that strap. And that's one thing I noticed while wearing this watch, is that I was wearing it with an elastic strap. Very popular these days, from the Marine National kind of style. And now there's been all these reiterations, and some strap bands are even more stretchy than your basic kind of parachute band ones. And I was wearing this on one of those types of straps that was quite stretchy, where I didn't even have to unclip it. I could actually just fit my hand through it. And I never even thought that, when I went to the park, that I'd have issues with my watch head flying around, flipping around after just some action and throwing a football, right? So the nice thing is, of course, it made me realize maybe I should pair this with something else. And then I just kind of went through. I didn't really want to sweat on a NATO strap with this one, for sports wise, but it's just a fun watch, I think, obviously, to wear, and it's pretty versatile. So I thought, hey, why not pair it with a rubber strap? And then I kind of went through my head and thought about all these different straps that I really enjoy. And this Hirsch pure strap came up, and I was just like, man, why not? So really, I think a great pairing, as you can see up close. Just wraps around the wrist beautifully, super comfortable, nice and pliable. It's not the most futuristic strap that's out there. It's not super feature rich, but it just does everything right. It's not adding too many bells and whistles there for you, but everything that it's doing its job, and it's doing it extremely well. Whether it's, the quality of, all the cuts and the ends and the holes, even the whole placement for fitment wise. And then they're even throwing in some quick release spring bars, which I thought was great. So, although this isn't really, a the watch review, which we do the low light transition and loom. Why don't we set that up just for old time's sake, and then we'll move into some closing thoughts. All right, let's go ahead and hit the lights. Okay, as you can see, this thing is not a loom beast by any means. This was kind of a disappointing point for a couple of people in the comments when I did the original review. They were hoping that everything would be loomed, but honestly, for a, for a field or aviation style watch, you don't necessarily need to have everything loomed. But let's go ahead and get the low light transition. Not so much to worry about how this loom looks or how legible the watch is, but actually to take a look at just the textures of this particular strap, as you can see, because that is really what we're looking at here. Look at the way the light goes over the beautiful matte finish, and I gotta say the pores on this are nice and tight. So this is not a dust magnet by any means, and actually is nice because it stays away from becoming sticky, which is a feature that I can really appreciate. As you can see, yeah, there's a little bit of dust on there, but it should be able to come right off. Let's do this. Let's, moment of truth. I'm gonna get my little blower here and I'm gonna blow it right off. So you can see just a little air, don't have to wipe it at all, and it came right off. So very cool. And yeah, I mean, it's just a really nice, and then I think the way that it plays with the light is definitely very similar to the black on the dial, the way it hits the light, as you can see. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be this watch, because of course, things probably pretty hard to find at this point, but you can throw it on really any kind of field or pilot's watch, and it's going to really make it have a more modern vibe and also be a little bit more wearable and something you can kind of, again, have more for activities, and you don't have to kind of worry about sweat, which is one thing that's always a concern. Or also, if you're wearing a really nice, comfortable, more elastic style band, you don't have to worry about your watch moving on you or kind of flopping around or anything like that, because there's not as much give. So yeah, I did want to share this piece with you, just a fun little short review. If you liked the video, please do hit like. If you're new, please subscribe for more content just like this. Definitely check out the link in the description below. Big shout out to Mark at Long Island Watches. I don't think he even knows that I ordered this from him at Long Island Watches, but hey, I figured I'd just pay it forward. I had a great experience ordering from him. Of course, he's been in the industry for a long time, so he's a real pro. So just game recognized game, Mark at Long Island Watches. So guys, again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Tell me about similar pairings what you'd put this with, whether it be maybe Stova, Flieger, or a Damasco, or it's crazy, right? Because there's so much room for play when you have that kind of monochrome setup. Maybe do you think this would pair well with maybe a Zen 556? So with all that said, again, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like, and if you're not, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.